lawyer.
You have a daughter around 16?
16? What?
We got this psychopath in our faces.
Evening, ladies.
I mean, who knows what's true and what isn't?
From director Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, Nick Nolte, Jessica Lange, Cape Fear, rated R. Exclusive engagement Wednesday. Starts Friday everywhere.
Hey there, and welcome to Dave's Movie Diary. I'm Dave, and yeah, last night saw Cape Fear again. Great movie. Saw it the first time when I was 18 with some mates at the cinema. It was their first experience with Scorsese and De Niro. I'd told them a lot about these legends, so there was some anticipation beforehand. They walked out blown away by De Niro, and I got some cred, so everyone's a winner. It's a film that plays really well with the crowd. It's shocking, it's funny, suspenseful, and cinematic, and entertaining above all else. So, impressions then versus now. Back in the day, it was really De Niro's performance that stood out because it's played for effect. It's quite a different performance from De Niro compared to his other work, even with Scorsese. The violence, the action, the intensity. It's a very intense film, and the suspense builds. Also for me, Juliette Lewis stood out immediately. She's in the first scene of the film and she's in the last scene. And it's a star-making performance for me, and she got recognised for that with the awards. Now, when I look at it, I'm much more aware of Scorsese's influence on the film, his direction, the overload of style, the psychological themes, and also just how hollow this family is when you start peeking under the covers. Scorsese, big fan, obviously. He was one of the first filmmakers I really got into, especially the early films like Taxi Driver, Mean Streets, Raging Bull, even King of Comedy. By the time this one came around, I'd seen a few of those early ones on video. And this is really Scorsese cutting loose and making a mainstream thriller. First time he'd done that. And when you look at when this film came out, it sits between Goodfellas, his iconic 1990 masterpiece, and followed by The Age of Innocence, which is a period piece with Daniel Day-Lewis. So this one allowed him to do operatic filmmaking. He uses a lot of well-worn tropes and ideas, but he does them really well. The fractured titles at the start, which let us know that we're in for something slightly off-kilter. The lurid colour effects that he uses throughout, especially when there's the scene with Nick Nolte and Jessica Lange getting down and dirty, and we get the negative sort of look when you see undeveloped film, and that sort of gives you the impression that it's not going to go well for this couple. Lots of expressionistic lighting in the film, heavy stylization. It did remind me, the way it was shot and the music as well, of Hitchcock energy, old Hollywood thriller dynamics everywhere, which is obviously the intention because this film's a remake of a 1962 film that's well known with Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum, both of whom make cameo appearances in this film. And my understanding is that Steven Spielberg was originally meant to make this film. He instead wanted to go off and do Schindler's List, which he did in 1993, same year that Jurassic Park came out. Excuse me. He realized that he wouldn't be able to achieve all of that and still make this film. So Marty Scorsese stepped in, and we got 3 great films. So for me, I think that Scorsese seems almost too excited by the filmmaking possibilities to restrain himself with this one. It's his first opportunity to really make a mass appeal movie that's gonna please most viewers, and that's what he did. Robert De Niro, unbelievable performance. I love the introduction we get to him in prison, doing push-ups, pull-ups. The tattoos are revealed from the get-go. He's got that great physique happening, and straight away we know that this is a character that's not to be messed with. As usual, De Niro disappears into the part. After a while, you forget that it's him. I love the way that he walks out of jail and he walks directly into the camera. Doesn't just walk towards it, doesn't walk around it. He actually walks straight into the camera. So this is a confrontational character. Max Cady. We've got the Southern accent, which is one of the few times, if any, that I can recall De Niro using a Southern accent. Holds up really well, actually. The cigar. The cigar is a prop that he uses to maximum effect, especially in that fantastic cinema scene at the start when he disrupts the whole film. To me, Max Cady feels like a few different characters rolled into one. He's obviously an outlaw. He's done 14 years. He's very pissed off with Nick Nolte for not doing his job as his lawyer and for intentionally burying a report which could have gotten him off. And so he's lost 14 years. He comes out seeking revenge. So he's an outlaw. He is a sexual predator. He had history. I think it was the third time that he'd done that when he got sent away. He gets out and straight away he's up to his old tricks. But when he was in jail, he learned how to read. He had a lot of time on his hands, obviously. And now he's a philosopher. He thinks he's a lawyer. He's also displaying elements of a preacher. And towards the end of the film, he becomes a movie monster. So he embodies a lot of different characters that we see in films. He does use a lot of biblical language to give himself license to do things that most of us can't or don't want to do. He gets a false gravitas from that. I do love the way they've put together the character in terms of the visuals. I particularly like the orange Hawaiian shirt, faux sailor cap, and iconic 1968 Mustang look. That really works for me. His physique too. It's one of the best physiques he's ever rolled out. It's up there with the Raging Bull look, and it really is a convincing part. He's very intimidating. Juliette Lewis is the other, secret MVP in this movie. She's astonishingly natural. I think she was around 18 when she made this film. She's acting as a 15-year-old. She's so convincing as that younger teenage girl. It's the small details that I really noticed this time that are so convincing. She puts a finger in her mouth. She's always touching her face. Awkward posture from one foot to the other. Uncomfortable glances, looking down. That real adolescent body language shown to full effect in the really creepy theater scene with De Niro. For me, it's nearly the best scene in the film. They're both acting out of their socks. We expect it from De Niro, but I think in that scene, Juliette Lewis at least matches him. And that's when De Niro's really manipulating her expertly, offers her the joint. They connect over Henry Miller, and it's really an episode in grooming. He's tapping into her intelligence and definitely her budding sexuality. And Juliette Lewis really plays that confusion mixed with fascination very realistically. It's a very uncomfortable scene to watch, but it's brilliantly done. So I think at times she's actually the best performer in the movie over the full length of the film. De Niro is undeniably brilliant, but towards the end I feel that probably not his fault, but I think Scorsese and the script ask him to become much more of a traditional monster killer. I will mention Nick Nolte and Jessica Lange. I'll call them the spiritually empty family because they really are. Nick Nolte, unusual casting for this one, as a respectable attorney. He's looking very dapper, very airbrushed. Quite unusual for Nick Nolte if anyone's seen 48 Hours or most of his other roles, he's usually quite shaggy and shambling and very over-the-top physically, intimidating. Q&A, another example, the Sidney Lumet film. In this one, like I said, he's a southern respectable attorney. He's wearing glasses, he's wearing suits, and if he's not wearing suits, he's wearing collared yuppie shirts. And he does really well in the role. Jessica Lange plays his polar opposite, which we often see in marriages. She brings that real emotional volatility to the role, and she's creative. She's an artist. She's prone to trusting her feelings. She actually is excited initially when De Niro's character shows up. It makes her blood rush a little bit. Lurking in the background, of course, is Nolte's infidelities, which meant that the family had to move. She brings that up in the film, and so it's nearly like she's giving herself license to do something naughty. And there's some great scenes between the two where they clash, and the marriage really feels hollow. They're drifting, they're emotionally disconnected, and then Max Cady arrives. Other interesting parenting ideas for me was the marijuana use from a 15-year-old daughter is just brushed off casually. The infidelity is hovering around and not really addressed by the couple. There's also quite an interesting scene where Jessica Lange and Juliette Lewis talk about the fact that Juliette Lewis alleges that she's been flashed multiple times, and that seems to be her justification that she's now a woman. And it gets laughed off and sort of put to the side. It's not taken as a serious issue. So parenting has changed over the last 35 years. And the family really seems to prize material comfort over any sort of morality or spirituality until Max Cady turns up. So really, when he does turn up, he starts to expose weaknesses that already definitely exist in the family. Another actor who does really well for me in this film is Jodon Baker. He always brings a similar energy, chews up scenes like he's eating dessert, brings Southern alpha energy, some really good confrontation scenes with De Niro when Max Cady makes Jodon Baker as the PI who's following him. They have a very testy little scene there with some great lines trotted out. I think I always liked Jodon Baker, especially after I saw him in Fletch, the Chevy Chase film. He usually plays morally dubious characters and seems to really enjoy it, just like another favourite of mine, Robert Loggia. Similar energy, just that Jodon Baker's more of a southern kind of guy. And he does give great supporting texture across the film. I touched on it earlier. I really like the opening titles. They give that Hitchcock energy, which reminded me of Psycho, the way that the Psycho titles are done. Another thing is the Elmer Bernstein score. It's crucial to the atmosphere here. Again, echoes of Bernard Herrmann's work with Hitchcock. Paranoia energy. We get a nightmare tone immediately established in the film, and the film announces itself with what I'd call a heightened reality from the get-go. The visual style and some of the technical observations I made, I already talked about that negative exposure love scene imagery. A couple more that I liked was De Niro hanging upside down when he's calling Juliette Lewis and arranging the theatre grooming meeting for the next day. When you see him hanging upside down and his hair's extended and his face is red and you can just see him grinning, it really screams instability and gets that point home. I think the heavy use of smoke, color, exaggerated lighting keeps us off balance and all work really well. Now, there is a problem for me with the final act. it becomes more noticeable every time I rewatch this film. I do think this film is much stronger when it just stays as a psychological thriller. When it gets into some of the action, I think the film weakens. And when Katie especially seems to become indestructible like Terminator at the end, the film becomes a bit too overly theatrical, and the excessive violence, the speechifying, the one-liners, even some comedy elements creep into De Niro's delivery towards the last 15 to 20 minutes, just shears off some of the impact for me. And I think it would have been much tighter if we'd stuck with the way that Katie was throughout. Yes, he is a larger-than-life character. He is chewing the scenery, but I just think it went off the tracks a little bit there at the end, and that the final confrontation between Max Cady and the family relies on movie mechanics rather than dread. I think I nearly would have even preferred an ambiguous wash-up at the end. That might have been more interesting and might have stayed with us as the audience a bit more. As it is, everything's tied up in a neat little bow, which is what Hollywood more often than not demands. And I think that I suppose that might have been based on test audiences, but I think we really lost an opportunity for a truly memorable film. I'd sum it up, I guess, by saying that the film loses some of its power once Max Cady stops feeling human. And just on that point as well, he says something earlier in the film which stuck with me, and that was that in prison he really needed to make himself feel human because of the abuse that he's getting, that he's receiving. And up until the end, I think I certainly do, I think, feel something for this guy, even though he's a terrible sexual predator, despicable human being. He did get screwed over by Nick Nolte's character, and I do have a tiny little smidgen of sympathy for him when he talks about what he went through in prison, but that's all washed away by the movie monster that he becomes in the last 10 or 15 minutes. Anyway, wrapping up, it's still an extremely entertaining film, very rewatchable. I've seen it, 10 or 12 times probably over the years. It's one of Scorsese's most watchable films, I think, for a lot of people. It's probably one of his more well-known films to the general movie-watching public. I would still argue that most of his usual Scorsese fingerprint films where he's got his individual stamp on things, I think they're still just as rewatchable, if not more, than this. But I think for most people, they have heard of this film, they've seen it, it's got lots of trailer highlights. I think where it lands for me is that it's not quite top tier Scorsese because of the final act, because I feel a lot of the touches throughout aren't signature Scorsese as much as they could have been. But the performances, the style, the tension that's created, again, Bernstein's music is very memorable and does build that tension really well. So for those reasons, it's still a great film, still recommend watching it. It's one of the chances we got for Scorsese to make pulp thriller cinema at full operatic volume. And I think it's a great director having a lot of fun inside mainstream thriller rules, which he didn't get to do too often. So it's worth seeing for those reasons. The great De Niro performance, excellent Juliette Lewis introduction to quite a few other memorable roles as well. All right, that's Cape Fear. Check it out if you can. It's usually available on Paramount and well worth a watch. Until next time, see you later.